international multiple award-winning station Channels Television Media Group today donated a truckload of food items to the Lagos State government for distribution to the most vulnerable group in the state. The items include 100 bags of 50 kilograms of rice, 300 bags of 25 kilograms of rice, 250 cartons of noodles, 250 cartons of spaghetti, and 75 cartons of vegetable oil. This is part of Channels Television's corporate social responsibility in the area of this pandemic. The state government says it is appreciative of the gesture. Now, the United Nations has warned of a shadow pandemic with rising reports of physical and verbal abuse in homes around the world because of the coronavirus lockdowns. In Nigeria, domestic and sexual violence experts say they have seen an increase in the number of people asking them for help. The Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team says it has added extra handlers on its hotlines to cope with the number of calls that they are getting, according to the report. Victims are literally walking on eggshells because they don't know how their partner is going to react during this period. Well, let's trace the heightened number of domestic violations in Nigeria during the lockdown period. Mr. Harry Obey, Director, Legal, Human Rights and Protection Activist, Department of Women, Children and Vulnerable Groups, the National Human Rights Commission, joins us from Abuja studios. Good to see you. Hope you're staying safe. Tell us about the statistics of the number of domestic violence cases in Nigeria, especially during the government-instituted lockdown.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here. Well, if you recall, at the onset of the lockdown, the National Human Rights Commission actually issued an advisory and informed the public that the commission was going to be monitoring the activities of law enforcement officers, particularly with regard to enforcing the restrictions. So our initial focus was on the activities of law enforcement personnel. But we realized shortly into the our activities that there was so much report coming in about sexual and gender-based violence, especially within the domestic space. Like the people usually before this pandemic, we get complaints through walk-in complainants and a few through our online media channels. But because of the social distancing and the lockdown, we had to restrict complaints through electronic means. And so we started getting those complaints. From the charts you heard or showed earlier, you recall that from gender and women perspective alone, we have a whole chunk of complaints, over 42,000 regarding domestic violence alone. But when we open the lines for specific report on domestic violence, aside monitoring the activities of law enforcement agencies, within the space of less than 2 weeks, we got direct reports on those media online of about 20 direct reports on domestic violence. And the breakdown, we actually show you solid into that. Some about rape of minors, rape of adults, then some about other assaults and torture and things like that. So it's really mind-blowing, and it is not really unexpected when we reflected on it, because the space for activities for humans are now actually reduced. And so a lot of people that were managing within the domestic space before now had to contend with face-to-face confrontations from spouses and also partners. And so that led to some physical violence by both parties, but more against women
if I might come in,
and children.
Mr. Obey, also looking at all that you have said, some people fear that perhaps the reports might be underreported, seeing as some families try to manage things themselves, or religious or a traditional methods. So in terms of solutions, what do you think we should start looking at? Does the government need to get involved? Is there more sensitization? What exactly?
Yeah, definitely everyone has to get involved, particularly the government, to sensitize people on the need for them to speak out when they're experiencing domestic violence. And we see that domestic violence is something that has to do with the arrangement of the whole society itself. So a lot of layers of intervening actors come in. The church, the families, and all that try to settle it. And most times, before we get to hear about it, it's almost too late. So people need to be aware that you have to be alive to be able to play your role within any space in the society, particularly within the family and the domestic spheres.
All right, Mr. Harry Obey, Director Legal, Human Rights Protection Activist with the National Human Rights Commission. Thank you for joining us on the program.
You're welcome. Thank you, too.
The US and UK researchers say they have identified hundreds of mutations to the virus that causes COVID-19. None has, however, established yet what this will mean for virus spread in the population and for how effective a vaccine might be. Another study from the University College London has identified 198 recurring mutations to the virus. This comes amid rising number of cases and death toll from the coronavirus. And the NCDC continues to work closely with states. You can find the latest national strategy to scale up access to coronavirus disease testing in Nigeria, also other public health advisory. The website comes alive with all the information and regular updates. Also, the light feed of the World Health Organization's website. Each moment, there are regular updates, the strategies, also the public health response. You can take a look at some of the guidance there for strategic action. And that's our COVID-19 special edition on Channels Television in collaboration with the Ford Foundation. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Another update comes your way again at 9 p.m. Stay safe.